Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and I used to be an airline pilot, so here we have the preliminary report of a UPS crash flight 2976 during takeoff, and we have those new photos published by NTSB, so Investigation Bureau of the United States of America, and on those images you may see what actually happened. So the engine, the left-hand engine just turned off from the wing, disassembling, igniting the fuel coming from the wing itself, because the engine had this residual thrust. It flown away and flown to the different direction, behind the airplane, crossed the runway and landed. So it looks like, judging on those images, that it seems to be engine separation, which could be the malfunction of the bolts which are holding the engine pylon, connecting it to the wing itself. What did lead to this separation? Could be a metal fatigue, and still on those images it is hard to say. Maybe turbine blown up. So for sure it's not a compressor which blown up, because now you see it's intact. I mean, the forward part of the engine you see on those images, it's more or less okay, but the turbine section, did it explode there that caused the damage to the engine attachment? Maybe, but I would put now that it was the problem with the engine mount on the airplane wing. Well, after the left-hand engine separation, some of the debris went into the central engine located in the vertical mounted, inside the vertical stabilizer. It caused the compressor stall. There was not enough air coming to the engine, so the thrust was mainly not produced. You can see this flame, from the aft part. It means the compressor stall. Usually it's accompanied by those boom boom explosives coming from the nacelle itself. So the only engine normally working was the right hand engine, and of course for this loaded airplane flying from Kentucky to Hawaii, well, of course one engine is not enough to maintain even leveled flight, not even saying about climbing. Even at this airfield elevation, it is for sure not enough. That's what I see judging on those images. Now let's read the report itself. Here we have the general information about the airplane itself. Here to rely to some of the videos, I need to switch to YouTube to play them. This is the crash site, something new, new information. Unfortunately, there were some of the people on the ground who were unalived because of this aviation accident. Mostly those videos are from the press conference of NTSB investigation team. And we may click it here for download of the preliminary report itself. Well, here again is the general information, the history of the flight. Again, those images were showing in details actually what happened. And the last image of the airplane, its map where it landed, direction of the travel, last travel of the airplane. Very experienced crew, 8,613 hours for captain. First officer accumulated 9,200 hours, and the relieved officer or relieved pilot accumulated 15,250 total flight hours. That's a lot. Cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were uncovered, and all of them showed intact data, which is great. And here they say about pylon to wing connection, or a pylon, I think it's pylon in English. Here they explain how it's mounted. So basically you have this spherical bearing that is holding the engine to the wing. This pylon of the engine, one of the main mounts. Actually there are two of the mounts. This is the aft mount, and now it's the main suspect, from what I understood, of this aviation accident. And here how it looks in real life, the forward leg, aft leg, wing clevis. There is the bearing inside. The connection between the pylon, engine pylon, and the wing is usually done like that. In case of the airplane, for example, crash, the engines should detach themselves. So there is some certain load under which those boats should just disassemble the engine construction totally, power plant, not to cause the damage and not to cause the airplane to roll, for the wings to rip apart. So everything is calculated for the airplane structure. At first you lose landing gear, then you lose engines, and only after that your wings get off the fuselage. So it's done like that. Maybe in case of the rough landing somewhere outside the airfield, forced landing, so the disassembling goes like landing gear, engines, and only after that wings. And here they say that they recovered the debris, that the aft mounts and forward mounts of the pylon were both found fractured near their 2 o'clock inboard fracture and 9 o'clock outboard fracture positions. The fractured and separated upper position of the forward and aft lungs were found adjacent to the runway 17 right, the left wing clevis. So here is basically what happened. Yeah, it separated the engine, separated together with a pylon, and basically it could be caused by, I think, metal fatigue. So after all, I don't think it was a turbine blade that caused this damage to the pylon construction. It looks like it cracked, yeah, on the airplane. And here's the spherical bearing, the left wing clevis fracture spherical bearing marked by red brackets. Yet also this bearing fractured. Maybe because of the bearing initially there was some sort of the vibration that led to those mounts to separate completely. Because this bearing goes inside those forward leg and aft leg, you see, yeah? So maybe the problem goes with the bearing, spherical bearing itself. So here they found those 2 legs which were separated originally from those ears, the bearing itself, wing clevis. Luckily the engine is available out there lying on the ground. Yes, damaged, but now for me it's clear that it was the mount of the engine. The left pylon aft mount, the fractured and separated forward and aft legs, and the left wing clevis contained the attachment hardware and fractured spherical bearing. So maybe the fractured bearing is the problem, I guess, I think so. And then it started to bounce there because we see some of the scratches, yeah? So those legs, they're scratched. On those legs, yeah, they're tiny little scratches, but they're visible. And here is the bolt itself that goes into that bearing, yeah, the spherical bearing that attached hardware after removal from the left wing clevis. At the time of the accident, this number, yeah, part number, accumulated totally 92,992 hours and 21,043 cycles. It means cycles, takeoffs and landings, and hours spent in flight. That's a lot, yeah, of course. There was the maintenance down. However, on October 28, 2021, there should be some of the lubrication applied to those bearings, of course, but the special detailed inspection CDI of the left pylon aft mount lungs would have been due at 29,200 cycles. The accident airplane record showed the CDI task had not been accomplished. The airplane had less cycles, yeah? So if you have 29,200 takeoffs and landings, you should perform some operations as well as 28,000. So nothing is wrong here that those CDIs were not accomplished because the airplane flown less cycles than it is needed for CDI according to the airplane manufacturer. Here the safety action is to ground all of the fleet, MD-11. Now we know that DC-10 airplane, which is similar to that one, also grounded because of the possible issues with those lugs, yeah, and also maybe spherical bearings. Could be that, could be this. They do not explain it in this article from what I see. Here they also explain similar events that happened with the flight American Airlines 191 crashed to the open field. Yeah, it was very, very similar. Also, during the takeoff rotation, the left engine, same engine and pylon assembly about 3 feet of the leading edge of the left wing separated from the airplane and fell to the runway, and very, very similar case. And here we have just this meteorological information and everything, and that's the end of the preliminary report. But judging on those damages, it is clear that it was not, as I initially said, the engine blown up, so the engine uncontained failure. Then some of the debris went hurting the aircraft structure that caused the engine to separate. After all, judging on what we see here, it was due to the link that attached Pylon to the airplane, to the wing itself, and of course it explains why those airplanes are now grounded. Well, with all of this information, with flight data recorder, with cockpit voice recorder, debris available, well, it's kind of easy to get to conclusion, so I expect that the final report will be published in 1 year or something. Now it's more or less evident what had happened, and that's the flow of the construction. Whether it's the human factor, yeah, because humans, they designed the aircraft, and judging on a similar case which happened to the similar aircraft, yeah, not the same DC-10, but similar to MD-11, yeah. So it means that there was the flow, and less attention was put on that after that accident with DC-10. So it should be scrutinized. Those special CDIs, yes, special inspections should be done, not in 28,000 cycles, but maybe once in 10,000 cycles at least, if you have the problem with this linkage. And it happened exactly at takeoff. Then you have this most load, the takeoff thrust for the engine. And pilots, unfortunately, they were doomed. If it happened after V1, of course, there was no option for them to reject takeoff, and with a single engine working, it's no go. So they were doomed by the time it happened, unfortunately, yeah. As usual, pilots, this final barrier for safety, yeah, but sometimes even pilots cannot cope with the problems occur, and this problem should not even be included in this aircraft design at first. Well, about the destiny of the airplane, I don't think it's gonna be grounded forever. I think there will be some maintenance action done, and still, like, from the economy perspective, it's profitable, I guess, for them to fly for several more years. So they'll reinforce the elements that attach pylons to the wings, I guess. Also, companies will be obligated to conduct often inspection, lubrication, and so on, and they will monitor how those attachments work. But in general, the design is not okay, as we see, judging from 2 similar aviation accidents. Well, those airplanes are great in general, but they're kind of elderly. And if you have some of the flows, maybe tiny little flows, then you fly the airplane for 30 years, they will of course pump up. And not any maintenance inspection may guarantee that everything is nitty-gritty out, that there are no any small fractures or metal fatigue inside important construction of the airplane frame and the airplane engines. Even with ultrasound, sometimes it's not possible to define, and you'll have this human factor that someone responsible should look for it, whether human will look for it precisely or not, or yeah, it's always a factor, my friends. Aviation is safe, the safest way of transportation out there, but it's not 100% safe, and it will not be 100% safe, unfortunately. But the important thing is to try to achieve this unachievable goal, to make it as safe as possible, and of course it is more safe with better airplanes or new made airplanes. MD-11, it's after all the previous generation of the airplanes, and it will retire pretty much soon. But even in new airplanes, there could be bad design, as it happened with Boeing 737 MAX, yeah, MCAS system. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like it, subscribe for the channel. It's all what I want to yap about today, about this accident and initial perimeter report. It was kind of interesting to read, and see you. Ciao.